Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of History After Hours. My name is Kevin Pumphrey, and with me on this podcast is Mr. Lewis Jolly, Mr. Ron Franklin, and Miss Emily Diedrich. We are four history teachers at Lakeside High School in Hot Springs, Arkansas. We are recording this on February 1st, 2024, live in front of our students, and we definitely want to give a shout out to Collective Coffee for having us out again. The students asked a bunch of different questions that we tried to answer. Some were serious, some were silly, and so hopefully you will enjoy this podcast. Okay, it is February 1st. We are recording live once again at Collective Coffee. We have a lot of students staring at us, and I'm sure they have some invigorating questions to ask. So with that being said, state your name and ask your question.
Hello, my name is Joshua Weed, and I'm sure you've all heard about the standoff at the Texas border, and I want to know how you think that will affect the future power dynamic between states and the federal government.
The standoff at the border. That's an interesting way to phrase that. You're talking about between the people who are trying to immigrate into this country, or are you talking about the state of Texas and its standoff against the federal government? Okay, yeah. Are you asking me if I think there's going to be a civil war? Is that what you're really asking me?
Yes.
Say it, Weed. Ask the question.
I hope not. Listen, at this point, I know there's been some talk between some Texicans about secession, and they get all pissy and they want to try to act all bad. And we used to be a republic. Okay, calm down. It's been a while. So if that's truly what they want, I think they need to think that through a little bit more clearly. Like, how are you going to function on your own as an independent state if let's say that you do secede and the United States lets that happen? So let's just ignore the possible military action to try to keep them in the Union because, that's been a thing in the past. Let's just say that they go, all right? Now we have a solid border between them and us. Is that really what they want? Are you going to give up all of the rights and privileges of the United States that's, the remaining 49? Now you're no longer a part of that. Is everybody going to give up their pension plan? Is everybody going to give up their money? You have to print your own money now, Texas. Get going. Are we going to have trade relations with them? Or is anybody going to be your friend now? Are we going to build a wall? Are we going to make them pay for it? I mean, look, there's a whole lot of ramifications there. You going to give up your Social Security? I mean, what are you going to do? So I really don't think that it's a lot of bluster, I think. There's some serious issues that need to be dealt with. Who has the sovereign right to defend our national border, not just the Texas border? That relies back on the federal government. So it's a pissing match at this point, I think. But I'm not predicting that it goes any further than that. What about you guys?
Yeah, it's unconstitutional. Most of these people are conservatives. They really worry about what the Constitution says. After the Civil War, there is no secession. So we made it basically illegal. It was a question before the Civil War. But since the Civil War, we now have it enshrined that secession is illegal. They're not going anywhere. Yeah, short answer, no.
No, there's not going to be one. I think you'd have to look at, would an American soldier fire upon a Texas National Guard? I think we're probably past that moment in our history. I don't think they would see that as serious enough. Now, the political jostling in the games has further placed us on each side of whatever division we want to be on now, I guess. But, I don't think there will be a succession or a civil war or anything. It's interesting. We were talking in the hall the other day, Josh, about how DeSantis is wanting to reconstitute the Florida military guard. It's not the National Guard, but in their constitution, they have Florida military. It does not allow it to operate outside of Florida borders, and he wants to revamp their laws to be able to send them down to Texas, which then they are not under any federal jurisdiction at all, which is, I don't think how that could ever be legal.
How would that even work? Would Texas have to invite them in and then?
Yes, Texas would have to invite them in and allow them to come under the purview of the Texas state government, which opens up another whole lawsuit waiting to happen.
You said something interesting, though. You were like, fire upon, would a U.S. military personnel fire upon a Texas? What about return fire from? Like, what if those boys do get all up in their fields and they decide they're going to do something stupid? And then how quickly is that going to end?
I mean, look, this is all politics, though. It's not actual on the ground.
Yeah, it's
one hurricane, and they're begging for federal relief and get the federal government down here and help us out.
I agree.
They depend on the federal government just as much as any state. They're not going anywhere.
We're going to use the words political theater. Yeah, it's they're trying to garner votes. They're trying to solidify some sort of knucklehead base. I mean, does it have the potential to do something else? I mean, if somebody gets stupid, it could get weirder, you know? I'm not predicting
one federal
that.
drone.
Right.
Somebody operates it. Oh, that's them? Okay. Taken care of.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it's a good question, and it's a valid thing to think about, you know? I mean, we're in some weird times. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
How do you think it gets resolved?
It may just be one of those prolonged arguments. You know, I don't know that there's a resolution. How long have they been working on quote-unquote border crises? I mean, for generation after generation seeming like that, you've got to figure out some new thing about what part of the border are you going to secure? How are you going to secure it? Are you going to seal it off? Are we going to isolate ourselves? We got to come up with some sort of functionality. But I will say this, people can bitch all they want to about the border crisis, but then I go back to my political theater stance, where if you have a bipartisan bill that's working through the Senate right now, and then you have nobody's even read it on the House side, and they're already saying we're going to kill it before it hits our, as soon as it hits our floor, they're not looking for a solution. They're looking to prolong the disturbance so that they can garner votes and raise cash for their next elections. I don't know that from their standpoint, I don't know that there needs to be a resolution.
Well, I think a lot of things you see like that, it's in their benefit to keep it going as long as it can. I know with the election coming up, if Trump gets elected, the border will probably be closed by executive order pretty quickly. Texas will join in that action to make it happen as quick as possible. There'll be some lawsuits flying around. Biden's in almost an impossible position now, because if he loses either way, on whatever way, to a very left-leaning base, he loses, and saying he's giving in to the strong-arm tactics of a governor down in Texas, or he is soft on immigration. And you see now it's kind of, with what Abbott has done.
Governor of Texas.
Governor of Texas has done with sending immigrants to the self-proclaimed sanctuary cities. He is now, even people in his own party are saying he is being too soft on or too easy on the immigration issue and the border crisis. So he's in a no-win situation, which is exactly what someone like Trump wants. And it just helps him say, see, look, I'm your answer. I'm your savior to all that is wrong in your world. Elect me again, and I will solve all these problems. And, it's working well for him right now.
I'd like to see a moment where everybody gets together and goes, let's actually come up with a solution. I would love that. We'll see if it happens. I'm not that optimistic, I guess.
Ever since the late 80s, it's been basically the same, and every president just kicks it down the road and nothing really gets done.
Yeah. All right. Excellent question. Good start. Thank you.
My name is Emily Williams, and I'd like to know, if you were to create your own wall of 100 most influential Americans to ever live, who would your top 3 be?
Well, my wall last
top
year,
3? Okay.
It's hard to say, because what I would say Einstein, George Washington, and third, Wright brothers.
I'll take a more modern route. Well, not too modern. Jefferson. I like an Einstein or someone like that. I could go with that, so I can't say no to Einstein. Who can say no to Einstein, I guess? I would go more modern with an Elon Musk. I think his influence is going to be felt for generations. Mm-hmm. I think he's the closest thing we have to a Renaissance man, as we like to say.
Does he have American citizenship? Does he? I didn't know.
He's got a lot of American money, so that counts.
I know he got that, yeah.
So I think he's American
Speaking of Musk, how you feel about the brain chip? You heard
No. Well,
Neuralink?
I want to get a Neuralink, but if I was paralyzed, I would. I think if it could, because that's going to be the first application for it.
Yeah.
I want to get anything transplanted into my body, except maybe like a translator. I maybe do that.
That might be kind of neat.
Instantaneous translation in your ear or something. I would do that.
Yeah.
But I think Musk, mainly because of not just because of the technology side of it, but you look at the Tesla, you look at SpaceX, you look at Starlink, which is, there's going to be a portable internet to take anywhere in the world with you. I think that's influential. He has more satellites in orbit than any other organization now. And then what he's done, agree or disagree with what he's done with buying Twitter, rebranding it to X, and the conversations around that, and how that was censorship, free speech, cancellation, all those things. Those conversations need to be pushed all the time. And I think he's he gets into enough arenas where he's touching everything now. So that's my modern take. What you got, D?
The only thing I can think of, and I know y'all are not going to like my answer, especially Nixon would not like
If you
my
say
answer.
Taylor
I'm
Swift,
going.
I'm thinking about saying Taylor Swift. I don't know if I'm 100% sure on my answer.
Over Elvis?
But if you've
Do kids
been
know Elvis
hearing
anymore?
what's going on recently in like the political party scheme area, is the Republican Party is actually looking at launching a campaign against Taylor Swift because she does typically lean more left and more liberal in her use of social media and her fan base. One Instagram post and she registered over 30,000 new voters in Tennessee somewhere. So they're just afraid that she could make a bunch of people lean one way versus the other.
Is there a counter flow? Do you think that are those 30,000 people that she registered automatically leaning left, or do you think that there's like a balance there? I don't know.
no, they're left.
Are they? I don't know.
But you got
Okay.
Kid Rock on the other side. Come on.
Kid Rock.
Sorry.
And Uncle Ted.
It is funny how the Republicans are against Taylor Swift because they know she's left, but they would love a musician or an actor to come out for them. So then it would be okay. It's once again, it's political theater.
Yep.
It's crazy.
They have come after her, though. You're right.
Yeah, there's even some,
that actually
like,
says
trying
something
to
about her influence, though.
Yeah, they're trying
yeah.
to say like she is more right-leaning than she appears to be. And they've been talking about her flying her private jet around everywhere. And even though she talks about like the environment and all this stuff, the things she does actually shows that she leans more right.
I wonder if she by herself could swing this election. If she just went all in for Biden, yeah, it'd be hard to prove exactly what percentage of the population she would convince, but there would be an army of Swifties that would, we're going to the polls. And I mean, I think she nearly has that much power in the 20 to 30-year-old demographic to swing the election. I mean, is she one of the most top 3 influential Americans of all time? The problem I have with Musk and Taylor Swift is too soon to tell. Give me 50
Longevity.
years and let's see if it all still works out. I mean, there's a lot of people 50 years ago that people would say, that should be in the, like William Randolph Hearst, but we don't really talk about him anymore. So it really depends on the next technology and the next musician and the next.
I think you check that box with Taylor Swift. I think if we're talking about right now, like, how do you beat that? The only other person I can think of that maybe, well, I think he's more influential, but I think it's Trump. Love him or hate him, dude's got people's attention. He's had people's attention, I think I've said this before, since he announced his candidacy in 2015. He has been on the news every day, multiple times. I mean, for that whole period. Is there anybody else who's accomplished something like that? Like I said, whether you like him or not, it doesn't really matter for what I'm saying here. That is an achievement to be on everybody's mind constantly. There's not a day. I cannot think of a day that's gone by in the last, 6, 7, 8, 9?
2015.
Forever,
is
every
when it
decades
started
now,
running.
it seems like. Okay. So, yeah, I bet, yeah, probably. Good day. Okay, good. Thank you.
I'm Logan Downen. I was wondering, what do you think it would be worth it to switch to completely battery powered from a perspective of what you would need to mine all of the materials and building the factories to build the batteries?
No.
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 Nope.
We have to have a mixed energy. That we don't have one source that'll do it. Lithium's not good enough yet. We don't have good batteries, and it's not good. From not my research, the way forward over the next 20 years is a combination of oil, solar, wind, and battery, and nuclear, because there's a big part of the planet that doesn't get enough sun, big part of the planet that doesn't get enough wind. It's going to take some combination. And look, I've been telling my class for years now, energy is it. We are now dependent 100% on electricity. We have to have electricity. Countries without it, if it happens, they're over. It becomes the Walking Dead if we don't have it. So our number one priority is energy, energy, energy. If cars run off energy, everything does.
I'm worried about the
Computer
lithium
systems-
battery scenario because I don't, correct me if I'm wrong, but are those recyclable? I mean, can they do something with it? Or when they're spent, is it done? Or you just have to toss it out and that becomes a hazardous material and... Like, I don't even know. I may be just talking crazy, but
I think it's getting it and mass producing it on a level that you would need.
how much energy are you actually needing to produce the batteries that are supposed to be saving the environment from all the energy? I need to ask some science guy for the actual answer to
And
that.
who?
but-
What's
know,
the
and you-
human cost of
exactly.
harvesting
You
that
look
stuff?
at the human cost in places like Africa and the Congo right now with cobalt mining and things like that, and it's horrific. There's a documentary or something out there called Cobalt Red that goes into details about it, and I mean it's pretty much a slave labor society in some parts of the Congo now, and are you willing to turn that into your entire basis of your economy once again? And also, we are already so entangled in conflicts around the world because of energy with the people the countries like China and those groups that own the rights to those mining facilities and the mines and the access to it. It's almost an economic colonialism with them that they're participating in now. Do we want to get further down that road of being so dependent with someone that does not necessarily meet our same moral view? I think it's way too dangerous on that aspect as well.
And really quickly, we think about conflicts as military, but it could be going on right now in cyberspace, and there could be hundreds of American computer scientists trying to protect our electrical grid from hacking from other countries, and they're doing the same. So, like, we could be in the middle of something crazy and not know it because it's not visible. It's online. It's through the internet, and the electrical grid has to be protected.
Well, there's a retired admiral, James Stavridis. He was a supreme NATO commander, the first admiral to be given that responsibility. It's always been a army officer because of the land-based warfare and stuff. And he has said in his opinion, the next world war will be fought in a digital landscape. And we're woefully unprepared for it. We get a lot of our conductors and our chips from overseas. If China decides to invade Taiwan and take that back into their loving arms, where do we get our semiconductors and chips and things like that? And it's a very slippery slope we would slide if we went totally dependent into that sector.
Thank you.
My name is Matthew Miller, and my question is, who do you guys think the most famous person in the history of the world is? So, not including religious figures.
That's tricky, man, because
The Pope or Trump?
which Pope? The Pope.
Right now,
The
didn't
Pope?
he say the
Right now?
Francis? I mean,
Is this
like,
a modern day question? Like someone
Or you mean ever?
alive or
Ever in the history of the world.
But you're asking about what people might think
Oh.
today. It also depends on which
Well-
country you're asking that question. I mean, if we're talking about Western countries like ours, the answer might be different than if you ask most popular but
Muhammad.
not a religious figure.
Are you just popular, liked, or just known? Just know who that person is. You'd have to go. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say Napoleon. I think that's my answer.
going Taylor Swift.
Oh no! Sorry, I'll only leave
Napoleon, that's a
one
good
Taylor
one.
Swift per podcast.
Gotcha.
I think you have to take someone like Hitler. I mean, he's just known.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody knows Hitler. Hopefully, everybody dislikes Hitler.
Yeah, I mean, name recognition matters. Yeah, I think that's probably that's a good one.
Yeah, nobody's
Yeah.
naming their kid.
Not he's a good one. That's a
Hitler.
good example of a name that's instantly recognizable. Yeah,
Because
Is
remember,
maybe he might win.
Stalin, Mao.
I still think I think Hitler's
Hitler.
more recognizable. Yeah, because I mean, and I think maybe it goes back to what do you know about that person, right?
I also,
You can say Stalin, but who? There's a lot of mystery in a lot of people's minds
Yes.
about who that guy was. Same thing with Mao.
I also
So-
think Adolf Hitler affected his generation more than any other human affected their generation. And then it disappeared just as fast. I can't think of another figure that had that big of an impact quickly, and then that big of an impact went away.
I mean, they're still making movies about him.
That's true.
So yeah, maybe that may be the answer, man. Unfortunately.
I'm Amy Nicole, Commander. My question is, I'm sure you guys all know about Hot Springs High School switching their calendar to a full year. Hypothetically, if every school switched their calendar to being full year and the sports schedules aligned with it, do you think that would do more harm or be more beneficial in the long run?
I don't like it.
You like it?
I don't like it.
Oh,
No, I do
he's
not
saying
like it.
He likes it.
Okay, so we had a little bit of this conversation earlier today in class. That's part of why this is on everybody's mind, I suppose. In my opinion, having done this for a couple of decades now, consistency matters, and that is a very inconsistent pattern. It might work for some kids really, really well, but I don't know that the bulk of them are gonna be serviced the right way. It's still generally a period of time in the summer. 5 weeks is what I'm looking at on their schedule, and then a week off every month throughout the year. And I think about all of the logistics on trying to start and stop and start and stop, and where do you land your lessons, and how do you work around testing, and does everybody gonna do the same thing at the same time? And I don't. And Jolly, you and I were talking about this. I know you gave this as a caveat, but you talked about it from a coaching standpoint.
Yeah, I just look at it
done.
not just from coaching, but any extracurricular activity. I mean, we have some athletes in here. We have band members in here. A good cross section of people. In my mind, extracurricular activities, school-based activities, are the greatest risk prevention system we have in place for our kids today. I like that. And the only way to make that schedule work, I think, nationwide is to remove those from the schools, go to the European model. You see participation rates drop. I think with our current makeup of how our youth are, with all the different things coming at you today, like I could never handle it myself at that age. You guys are amazing for that. I just don't see it working for the entire country. And you also look at the economic impact. My son called me when his daughter's school, she's in 3rd grade, they're going to a 4-day-a-week schedule, and they are stressing about how to even figure out 1 day a week, let alone a whole week every 5 weeks.
Yeah, I was going to go to that too. For you guys that are older and you can drive and get around and do your thing, that might be, you've got more flexibility, and maybe that's good. But I think about, folks, what are you going to do with your little kids? 1 week every month, you've got to figure out what to do with those kids to make sure that they're safe, make sure they're taken care of. What kind of expense is that going to be to throw that at them? I think it's going to be complicated, and that's, again, the logistic aspect of it is one of the biggest problems I've got.
Okay, I'll go the other way.
Okay.
I do think it can be beneficial. I think a lot of our mindset is because the traditional model is so embedded in everything we do, whether it's sports or how parents think of everything and summer vacations and all that. However, most of the achievement gap happens in the summer. So kids that go home to poor parenting and they have 3 months of just nothing, when they come back to school, they're a little bit behind, and you just do that every summer from kindergarten and it increases. The 4-day-a-week model, I get why that's struggling, because you're just adding hours to the day, which is also a problem. But the 3-week on, 1 week off model, I can see if we didn't have it all embedded, it's like, you can get focused for those 3 weeks and then you get a break. And then you get focused for 3 weeks and you get a break. It's kind of like, now when you start at school in January, it's a pretty long haul to get to spring break. And then another long haul to finally get to summer. And then it's freedom forever. And then you come back to school and you're trying to remember how to write. And your hand feels weird. And you have social anxiety because you hadn't seen your friends in a while. And so, I don't know, maybe the more consistent, 3 weeks on, 1 week off. I mean, it would be better for health. Like if you worked out 3 weeks on and 1 week off, that would be better than working out hardcore for 3 months and then taking 3 weeks or 4 weeks off, if that makes sense. If I compare it to like physical fitness, it's better because it's actually more consistent doing the full year. Now, what I think is going to happen is more and more schools are going to experiment with this, and we'll find the studies and we'll figure it out as it becomes more common. It's just not that many schools, not that many states have embraced a year-round system. And I hope you all know this as history people, we do. The reason we have this model is because you're all farmers. Mm-hmm. And so you have to plant in the spring, and then you got to work in the field all summer. And then as soon as harvest time happens in the fall, you get to go back to school and you have your education in the winter. That's why this whole model was set up, and we're still on it, even though actually very few of you are farmers. So we're still on an old school model. But that's how it all started, just in case you were wondering.
I can see the pros and the cons to year-round school. I think ultimately the biggest thing is it's going to help with teacher burnout and student burnout, giving a little bit of a break, giving teachers time to plan, kids time to be social, because social lives are the important things to kids, especially in high school. But I think the biggest problem would be, like we've been saying, the consistency. We all know that coming back to school after a break, it's like you're just dragging yourself back into the building, teachers and kids. But then right before a break, you're excited, you're acting out. Maybe you're not even showing up to school the couple of days before a break. And I think that's going to be the problem, is getting in and out of routine so frequently.
Yeah. Well, that's right. That goes back to the inconsistency aspect. So yeah, that's a perfect tie-in. So everybody's got a plan. We'll try it and see what. I mean, we'll watch them. We'll see how if it makes a difference. I know that some of the schools that went to a 4-day week, a lot of them go on Mondays because the argument was don't do it on Friday because then, like you said, kids have to go. There's games and a lot of things on Fridays, and you would have to be there anyway, and you have to pay them or whatever. Is it fair? they said, well, it's going to help with student attendance. It's going to help with teacher attendance. They'll be able to get all their extra stuff done on that third day. It's going to be great. Well, what's happening in the local schools that I know that have tried this, it's actually had the opposite effect. Kids are missing more because they're used to being off and they want to stay off. Teachers are not able to get the appointments or whatever they need on the Mondays because everybody's trying to get stuff on Mondays. You end up having to take days off elsewhere. And when you miss a day because you said that it's an extended day, like you miss one day, it's a day and a quarter off your paycheck. So, it gets tricky when you start. I understand that maybe we need some flexibility for more people. And the traditional model, like you mentioned, we're not agrarian anymore. I get that, but
you do still get a month off in the summer. It's not like you just get one week off. Yeah, you still get a summer break. It's just not, instead of 2.5 months, it's 1 month.
I don't think the best argument is how long is summer. I think the best argument is how inconsistent is the rest of the school year.
I can see both sides.
Yeah.
I'm Merrick Lukens. There's a lot of discussion about life classes that teach students life skills. As an adult, what is one life class you wish they taught or should begin teaching?
How to break up with someone.
That's a good.
It's never talked about. You start your first relationships in high school, and some of these things go on for 2 years when you know you're not going to marry this person. You just don't want to be alone. And so literally you have toxic relationships constantly in high school. If there was some, rip it off like a Band-Aid. I'm not happy. It's been real. I wish nothing but the best. Goodbye. And there's like skills to this. There really is ways to do it to minimize the damage from one party to another. And I just think we do all this stuff, and, I just think that's a skill that we just ignore, even though it's obviously, and, I'm not saying I would be qualified to teach it, but there are sociologists and, psychologists that could teach interpersonal relationship skills at a younger age. So when you actually start dating someone, you don't get into a toxic relationship and you don't even realize it. And it's changing your personality, and then you're mad at your parents, and then, so that's a big issue that I think we just ignore at schools, even though we make kids go to school so much of their life.
I mean, there's a couple of things as maybe not a life skill. 2 things. I really would like to see civics and economics to be a senior level course. They're a semester apiece. You're getting ready to vote, but yet you haven't taken a history course in a year and a half probably. We teach you as a 14-year-old about elections and government and legislatures and bills on Capitol Hill, and you just glaze over and you hate it even more because you're 14 years old, don't care. We teach you economics sometimes as a 14 years old, and you don't even have your own money to manage. I think we could turn that into an automatic life skills class, both of those. But I like a conflict resolution class. My wife is a HR director at a bank, and she just talks about how young people just cannot deal with conflict, whether it be breaking up with someone or just being told no. Just being told no. What do you mean no? No. That's it. How do you deal with those? How do you internalize that? How do you work through that? How do you negotiate something you want as opposed to lashing out when you don't get what you want? I think conflict resolution is needed at an all-time high because we are an instant gratification, tell me yes society. All of us are, and I think it's showing in our kids and our society with crime rates and everything. And we got to just retrain that. Young people.
To tack onto that, I think that stress management would also fit nicely into what you're saying. Maybe it's during COVID that it became much more evident. They're like, well, don't stress kids out. They're not going to stress. We'll never do it. Okay, so we're going to try to create a stress-free environment. That's not realistic. Life is going to be stressful. I mean, you're going to have to learn to deal with things that don't go your way, and then which could lead then to anxiety that could lead to conflict. And then, therefore, you need the conflict resolution to go with it. But whoever told you that you're never going to have stress or told you that that's the way life should be, that's just not, honestly, I mean, it's an ignorant thing to you want to minimize it, I suppose, but at the same time, you can grow through a stressful moment. You can become better on the other side of that if you understand how to deal with that appropriately. I mean, some people go through, meditative classes. Some people go to church. Some people do whatever it is, whatever works for you. There's something that can happen there.
How do you make your muscles strong? You have to put stress on them. How do you make your mind strong? You have to put stress on it. Without stress, you don't get any better. I mean, you learn through the bad times, right? it's kind of a similar thing. So I think that would be a good one.
Yeah, it can be crippling if you don't know how to deal with it.
Right.
I think my answer is a little bit more of something you can actually learn, and maybe it's just because like I haven't learned it yet. I just trust someone to do it. But taxes, I feel like I should know how to do my own taxes, and I
Senior
don't.
level economics class, taxes.
Yeah, well, I took economics in the 9th grade for one semester.
There you go.
There you go.
So sometime in January, you're going to get a W-2. Let's get into it, everybody. The exciting world of taxes. But she's right. I mean, I would say 99% of people that leave high school have no idea about taxes. They just call their parents if they have parents that can help them. So yeah, that's a good life skill.
What do we teach in the economics classes? You guys have just recently been through some of that, I suppose. Like, do you know how to balance a checkbook? Do you know how to
Checkbook. Online.
Yeah.
banking.
Well, even so let's say you have a debit card. You still have a withdrawal and hopefully some deposits. You have to learn how to, do I actually have this much money in here? Well, I've spent this. It's not come out yet. Like, what is it?
What are interest rates? What is a credit
What
score?
is
How does
interest
that
rate?
affect you?
Yeah,
Can you
yeah.
afford a home? How do you go about purchasing a home? How do
What
you
are
go
closing
about saving
costs?
By the way, keep your debt low. Don't start a family till you have to. Okay, sorry. I go through the whole thing every time.
Never have kids. Talk about stress.
If you want freedom.
Talk about stress. All right. Yep. Excellent.
My name's Taylor, and what is something you've accomplished as an adult that your younger self would be proud of?
Stress management, conflict resolution, learning how to do taxes.
How to break up with someone.
How to break up with someone, yeah. Okay, listen, I am not proud of younger me. I was what's commonly referred to as a smartass. And I didn't get along with a lot of people because of that smartassery. And I was oftentimes way too reactionary, way too soon. And I've learned to manage that better. I'm not perfect at it, but I've learned to manage it better. Learning to get away from people who were not really my friends. Yeah, people that I hung out with because I thought they were kind of cool, or But then you realize like those people are poison. You need to learn to identify the poison and get away from that, because it can drag you down as well. What I discovered was that most of my friends were imaginary. So you gotta learn to cut people loose. That's something I learned.
So mine is, I had a dad and an older brother that did all the stuff, and I was the youngest by 7 years. So in my adult years, I've learned to be useful around the house, putting on shower filters. I built a table. Like my younger self would be, I didn't even know you could use a hammer. So even though I grew up on a farm, that's a very specific set of skills. I never was good with woodwork or electricity and all that, and I've learned that in the last 10 years or so. So that's my little thing.
Well, I will say I take pride that I'm still a smart ass at times.
Not
times.
me, never.
But
I'm over it.
I'm fine, and I'm fine with being that way at times. It's just I deal with things with that mechanism. But I would say the biggest things I as an adult, I've accomplished. I grew up with the male figures in my life not showing emotion. Like my father told me he was proud of me 2 times. The time I was baptized and the time I graduated college. That was it. Only thing. And so I'm proud that I'm finally, after years of telling me I need to, starting to learn how to communicate a little better with my spouse. Actually being okay to get a little tear down your eye when you hear an emotional song or watch an emotional movie.
I've seen him cry twice today.
Yes.
And it's coming out now.
Yes. Yeah. So, but I'm kind of proud of that I've gotten, and this has just been the last few years that I've been able to feel comfortable enough to even say that in front of a group of people.
What do you think that old school men don't cry, bury your feelings, and have a heart attack at 40? Like, what is that? Where does that come from?
Patriarchy. Bury your feelings, act like you have answers.
The traditional thing that in my role as a father is to provide for you, and that's it. Well, mothers were at home. They took care of the feelings and the boo-boos and hugs and kisses and make you feel better. My job was to go to work hard, provide for you. I don't have time for your activities. Your activities are silly. You need to get a job. You need to be a man and support your family type of mentality. At least that's what I was told.
But I'm saying, about where do you think that originates? Because I think especially for like I'm Gen X. I assume you guys are. What are you? Are you Gen X too?
I'm
Yeah,
X.
you're the other.
Barely.
Yeah. So, Deed, you got your own thing going there, so we'll have to ask you too. You're Gen Z. Okay. But I mean, but for our generation, there's a whole lot of that was like, just bury it. Don't
I think
talk
we're
about
the
it.
last
Rub dirt on
generation
it.
that has that.
Emotions are weakness somehow. You
Oh,
can't.
die of a heart attack at 50.
That's what I'm saying. That's a thinking back on that now. That's weird. And I wasn't that way with my kids, but
Well, you have some traditional gender roles in there. A lot of people of our generation, their parents fought in some horrific wars, and you don't talk about those things. You never heard about those things. And that's just the way men were supposed to be composed and stiff and
it was way more violent. And somebody's got to go protect the house. And it's the guy that has to push the feelings down, not show fear, even though he wants to scream. And you have to protect, over the course of thousands of years, men, soldiers that were filled by mainly men, although the Vikings were a little different. There's a few groups. And I think they had to push their feelings down in order to, to attack another human takes that. You just kind of keep going. Then civilization happens. You still have that in you to push down the feelings, even though you're not fighting anybody.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thoughts?
What are you going to be when you grow up?
I don't know yet. My thing that I'm most proud of that I've learned, and it's still kind of a work in progress thing that I've really developed in my 20s, is when I was a teenager, I would often become a doormat and sake for peace or to avoid conflict. And I would just kind of let things roll and let people treat me and talk to me poorly, especially friendships. And that goes into having toxic friends and learning that there's certain people you just don't need in your life. And so I've stopped doing that. I stand up for myself a little bit more often in situations, and I used to not do that. And I think that's really been my coming of age thing and learning who I am as a person and how to appropriately address conflict and disagreements.
You had my conflict resolution class, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
There you go.
So are you dealing with that in some sort of positive way, or are you I cut a bitch? What do you?
It changes daily, I guess. Oftentimes my reaction is a jump to anger, but I think I don't react immediately.
It's honorable.
But yeah. It's just been a work in progress.
If I could give everybody a gift, it would be to not care so much about what other people think and just be true to what you like and what you think. And that's kind of what she's saying. Because, once again, as junior high into high school, that's, you're looking around. I mean, the worst people to play for music for is people in high school. Because even if they love the song, they don't want to show it. Because they're worried somebody else might not like the song or whatever. And so, just being true, the most fun people to play for are 30-year-olds because they've come true to themselves. I love this song. And then they're out, so it's just knowing who you are and being okay with that and let everybody else be okay with that.
Do you have anything that where people said something you still kind of harbor a resentment for it?
No, absolutely not. Because I just
I
shut people down. Not shut you down verbally, but if there's someone like that,
when you were younger, you never had anybody say something to you, and you just
Well, one of my neighbors called my sister fat at a neighborhood barbecue, and I keyed his car. That's how I dealt with things.
Okay.
Vandalism. True story. Got in a lot of trouble. I do not recommend it.
Conflict resolution.
But that's the deal. I was okay, you're going to hurt me, then I'm going to get you back.
Yeah.
Vengeful. We was talking about vengeance earlier.
Yeah.
Get a little sweet revenge there. Now, that wasn't my finest moment.
I think as you grow up, the thing that shifts is you go from being hurt by what they said to you start to pity people. You realize they're hurting. That's the reason they're being mean. That's the reason they're saying their stuff. It's their insecurity, not yours. And once you kind of realize that dynamic, and then you see it. I see it in the hallway. I see kids say horrible things. I see kids posturing. And you realize it's their insecurity, not who they're talking to. And then it makes it easier to deal with.
Yeah, and the only reason I say that, you talked about imaginary friends, and I'm not talking about social media friends, but I stay in touch with one person I went to high school with. That's it. Probably my best friend in the world, and I stay in touch with him. I'm not a person that has 20 friends in this huge friend group that you see and you go and do everything. I don't need that. I don't desire that. It's just too much for me to handle. So I guess maybe just because I'm a little introverted into myself at times.
Hello.
My name's Priscilla Rosales, and I'd like to know what you think the most admirable aspect of human nature is and the worst.
Greed and pettiness is like the worst. That's why I'm going to go first.
Love is the greatest.
Yeah. Compassion, empathy.
Empathy, compassion.
I think greed, to the old saying, greed is the root of all evil. You look at so many things in the wrong in the world today, and it goes back to greed. Either you want the power or the money or the fame, and you just crave that and you want it all. I think that's the worst. But having love for another person or another human being, or just for each other in a general sense, I think that's the greatest thing we can have.
I agree with the greed thing, but I almost lean towards like selfishness as well, along with greed, because sometimes it's not just about like materialistic wanting things for yourself, but like.
I think the thing that can make you unhappy pretty quick is jealousy. Comparing yourself, I've said this to somebody, I don't know, comparing your insides to people, all you see is people's outside, what they project. But you're comparing your inside to that, and you're jealous of that or whatever, but you don't know what's going on inside of them. So this whole comparing thing is what makes a lot of people unhappy. So being content with what you have and being grateful. So to me, grateful is a great thing, and jealous is the bad thing, and they're kind of opposites. Next.
Hi, my name is Jacob Moss, and in your opinion, how should the U.S. respond to the current Israel-Hamas war situation?
Well,
this is this would take a long time
that's a loaded question. How should we respond? How are we responding? Is it enough of a response? Is it even our place to respond? Maybe that's some question. It depends on who you ask, I guess.
I think Israel has the right to try to destroy Hamas, the terrorist organization. They don't care about the innocent Palestinians. And I understand that Israel's getting a bad rap right now, but please understand Hamas is the type of a terrorist group that will use their own people as shields and strap up children with bombs. And they've already said they want to wipe Israel off the map. So that's a pretty big threat right across the border. And they already did something horrific to innocent people. Now, whether the United States should get involved, whether our support, that's a issue that's been bubbling for years. Obviously, there's been Jewish people in that area forever. And it's interesting how there's 55 Muslim countries, and there's one Jewish state, but they do get the whole oppressor role, which is controversial. And so you do see the innocent Palestinian people, and most people do, as innocent victims, which they are. So it's a complicated, historic craziness. Is it going to get even solved? What my hope is that it can. I hope innocent people can stop dying as soon as possible, and I hope no other countries get fully involved to create a bigger crisis.
Well, that was where I was going to kind of tie in with that too. If there's all kinds of mistakes that can happen, whatever we do or whatever kind of pressure we can put on there to try to for them to have conflict resolution. At this point, is that possible? If we intervene poorly, it could actually exacerbate the problem and make everything worse, and then expand out the conflict. And that's really you're walking on a razor's edge for a lot of different reasons.
Well, one thing I would love to see, if we are going to do something, to stop tying it into political gains. Right now, funding for Israel, funding for Ukraine, funding for the border crisis is all tied up in one big, neat negotiation package. And I think that's ridiculous for us to play these omnibus bills and stuff. It's ridiculous that our politicians, and we allow our politicians to play these political games of something that was already disastrous for thousands and thousands of people. And we're allowing, and that's kind of our status quo now, say, well, we'll help them if we get what we want. We either need to decide as a government and a people, are we going to help these people? Are we not going to help them? Are we going to assist Israel? Are we going to stand stand aside and let it solve itself, what are we going to do? It's disheartening and it's frustrating to see our politicians dodge questions about it and say, well, if they'll do this, we'll do it. Well, that's a BS type of answer to me. Am I empathetic towards tens of thousands of innocent people killed in that situation? Absolutely. How can you not be? I mean, you're just an asshole if you're not, I think. But at the same time, do the nations have the right to defend themselves against a group that would, the easy equation is if Israel said we're not going to pick up a firearm again, not going to defend ourselves, what would happen to them as a nation?
Well, you could also make the argument that, and I've heard this played out in the news, but with different analysts, Israel's current continued strafing of innocent people's the areas where they live, the places where they've sent them to say, you'll be safe if you go here, and then all of a sudden you're not safe there. Is there a safe zone anywhere? They actually may be a stronger recruiter for the Hamas or the militant responses to Israel's existence to begin with by their continued, not just the political oppression that we can talk about, that's a reality on a daily basis, but now there's just this hammering the hell out of this area. Are you creating more of a monster? And I wonder would Hamas even exist if Israel had a different tone and take on how to interact with the Palestinians to begin with. So, I mean, you have to talk about that side of it, too. You talk about defending yourself. What caused the conditions that infuriated the people to the point where they were willing to go forward and do those things? I'm not blaming Israel for the attack. Don't get me wrong. But at the same time, you got to look at, I think you need to critically look at some of the terrible conditions that have been created by this government in particular that then makes the whole situation more inflammable. So can you diffuse that and at this point, too, let me just take that other side for a second. Have you crossed the line between we're defending ourselves and moved into we're just punitive?
Well, there's more tunnels that Hamas has created under the Gaza Strip than the London Underground subway system.
Well, I don't.
So,
okay.
and they're connected to hospitals and
schools. I would love to see absolute proof of that, though.
I've not been there, so I don't know. This is just what I hear.
Yeah. If it's true, I understand unplugging the network.
Right.
But I also don't understand. Let's bomb those facilities which do have civilians in there, and yes, they're human shields. Okay, we can make that argument, and the Israeli government and the IDF does make that argument.
Out just like Hamas wants it to.
But then do you make it harder on yourself to try to have resolution by just saying, well, you know what? Who cares? We have to get those guys in that tunnel, so we're going to destroy all of these innocent people's lives. And how does that factor into the moving forward?
But my point is, Israel is not just, hey, let's carpet bomb these innocent people. They are killing innocent people in their pursuit of the terrorist group. Now, that doesn't mean that the innocent people should die or anything. But if Hamas cared about them, then of course
I'm not arguing that point at all.
If you flip it and let Hamas attack, there is no such thing as an innocent person. They're going to level the place. So, our values.
I'm not
in
arguing
America,
for Hamas. Don't get me wrong.
Of course not. And you know what's crazy is thousands of Palestinians would go into Israel to work and then back to Palestine before all this happened. It's the innocent people that always pay the price on both sides of this issue. And usually it's the few politicians and the few terrorists that are trying to play this chess game.
I just wonder.
I don't know what the answer is.
I just wonder if there's a better way forward without all the collateral damage.
I agree. Right. And I don't know either. I'm not a military expert. I
don't
know if there's a
I don't have an
better
answer
way.
Yeah.
All right. So once again, that could take a lot longer. But
okay.
We got a couple more questions, rapid fire, lightning style.
Hello, I'm Mary Lopez, and I was wondering how would it have altered the course of the conflict if Germany hadn't invaded Belgium in World War I?
Okay, if Germany didn't invade Belgium in World War I, how would that have altered? Potentially Great Britain wouldn't have got involved, right? Wasn't that when Germany invaded Belgium in World War I?
The breach of neutrality is what caused France and Britain to get involved, right? Germany always had a plan to invade France, though. See, that's the misstep there. So if you go back to 1905, 9 years before World War actually lights up, they had created a plan for creating a zone of influence greater than they already had in Central Europe and then beyond. So they were always planning on it. So it's hard for me to unplug. What if they hadn't invaded Belgium? They were. You have to understand the nature of the beast at that time. They wanted to create a larger war so that they could take more territory. They were geared for that. They've been practicing and planning on it for actually even longer than since the years before the war.
Well,
so I don't know.
With the military buildup around all of Europe at that time. I think it was just delayed the inevitable. The whole region was ready to go into conflict. Would it have pushed it 6 months, a year? You know, a lot of those countries were almost looking for, not just Germany, were looking for an excuse.
What if it was just Germany
themselves.
versus Russia? I mean, Germany, Austria versus Russia and Serbia. If that's the end of it. That would have been an interesting dynamic, and I think that they could have actually taken Russia out. Russia wasn't that strong.
Hello, my name is Pike Williams, and I would like you to describe to me which would be easier, only being able to use words with one syllable or not being able to use words that are only one syllable. And please answer either in one syllable or with words that do not that are more than one syllable, please.
You can't even answer the question because syllable is multisyllabic.
So I can answer in multiple syllables. Can I speak in third person, even though that's really annoying?
Dude.
I don't like this thought.
This is a conundrum.
But I choose one.
Hey, we're gonna go with that one. We go with that.
Yes, we can.
I'm Will Dozier, and y'all were talking earlier about Neuralink, and one of these other futuristic technologies of a similar vein is they're thinking about like uploading your consciousness for like to live forever. Is there any way you could prove that that is not the same person, or even that it is the same person?
Are you a collection of your memories, or are you an energy source?
Can we prove we're not in a simulation now? I mean,
Do you have a soul? That's the question. Are we just a complex
But are you
computer
you?
system,
Let's say
or
you
is
have
there
a-
more to us than just our memories?
Let's say
and
you
our
have a soul, but are you without your memories?
Dang. We don't know.
We don't know. We're not scared of saying we don't know.
Is this just the ship of Theseus from an ancient Greek thought experiment?
Oh, Ship of Theseus is, if you replace every single board on the Ship of Theseus, it's still the Ship of Theseus.
I've heard of that. I didn't recollect.
I mean,
it.
We live in a world now where if we die, we're going to have such an internet presence already that they could use AI to take every picture we've ever taken, everything we've ever said, everything we've ever texted, and make a version of ourselves, but it wouldn't be us. But it'd be close, maybe.
So, Amy Nicole, and I was going to ask, in a doomsday apocalypse type situation, whether it's zombie apocalypse or nuclear warfare or something like that, what group of survivors might you join, and where do you think would be the best place for you to hunker down, have as your base?
Never in a city.
No. Redneck Central with a lot of natural water.
Middle of nowhere somewhere.
We started this conversation with Texas, so let's end with Texas. Are there more guns per capita in Texas than anywhere else?
And tigers. Apparently.
Probably so. Yeah.
Tigers?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
There's more tigers in captivity in Texas than there are naturally in everywhere else in the world.
Private zoos. No, it's true. It's true.
It's crazy.
I was thinking more specifically, like, if we were stuck in Hot Springs,
Oh.
which place specifically would you want to hunker down, like, around this area?
Well, I'm not telling
Walmart.
you that. That's where I put all my stuff.
We're gonna take Walmart.
Taking Walmart, everybody. We're
They
moving
have.
on Walmart.
They've
We're
got
taking
food.
Linda
They've got
McInvale
guns.
with
They've
us.
got knives. So probably.
I'm taking the mountain tower up there. It's defensible. You have the high ground. You can see people coming from miles away. I'm an excellent
Cutting
marksman. So, yeah, I'm going to take that,
We
and
got the hills. Yeah, I mean, there's.
I like that.
This is not a bad
You're
state
fine.
to be in.
You're gonna run out of food up there in your freaking tower, and you're gonna be wishing you were at
Ivory Tower.
Walmart with me.
Have you seen the people at Walmart?
Listen. If I get to the guns, we can take care of that.
I
problem.
already have all the guns.
You ain't gonna bring them all to Walmart.
No, but I want them in my tower. And you said
All right.
something
Do you
about
have- do
cannibalism
you have
earlier.
a
What am
place-
I work?
Do you have a
No,
shelter?
I mean, not to sound like a doomsday prepper at all, because I'm definitely
You have
not.
a basement, don't
But
you?
this is a very regular conversation with my parents, and we have a very specific plan in place.
We're
if
going to
something
her house.
ever-
That's
We're
where
going
we're
with
going.
Diedrich.
All right, that is the podcast.
Hey,
Thank you to
click,
Collective
click.
Coffee. We'll see you on the flip flop.